Muscles doctor. Jesus.
Right now, a powerful nor'easter is turning the northeast quarter of the United States into a shutdown zone. 7 states are under emergency declarations, with rare blizzard warnings stretching from Delaware through New Jersey and New York into New England. Up to 2 feet of snow and 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts are creating life-threatening whiteout conditions and forcing travel bans on major highways. Here is the important part. For millions of people, the next 24 hours will test how prepared they really are. This is not just another winter storm sliding quietly up the East Coast. According to forecasts, the February 2026 nor'easter, now known as the blizzard of 2026 or Winter Storm Hernando, is a powerful nor'easter feeding on cold Arctic air over land and deep Atlantic moisture offshore. As that clash of air masses intensifies near the mid-Atlantic and New England coastline, it drives heavy snowbands directly into some of the most densely populated cities in the United States. Forecasters warn that many communities are on track to see up to 24 inches of snow, with the heaviest bands capable of dumping that amount in less than a day. According to official updates, the storm structure is classic but unusually strong. A deep, low-pressure center is tracking close to the coast, close enough to send blinding snow and 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts ashore. At the same time, it pushes water into bays and inlets along the New Jersey, New York, and New England shoreline. That is why the risks tonight are not only about snow piling up on sidewalks and driveways. Coastal towns face flooding from high tides and large waves, while inland cities and suburbs brace for blowing and drifting snow that can shut down entire counties. Governors in 7 states, from Delaware and New Jersey up through New York and into New England, have already declared states of emergency as the storm deepens. Blizzard warnings, rarely issued on such a wide scale, now stretch across the greater New York City region and into parts of coastal New England. Here is the important part. The ingredients are in place for a once-in-years blizzard, and the real story begins when those heavy snow bands lock in over highways, airports, and neighborhoods that are still trying to keep up. In just a few hours, the blizzard of 2026 has turned from a warning on a weather map into a paralyzing reality on the ground. Through the afternoon and evening, snow bands wrapped around the deepening nor'easter and began hammering the mid-Atlantic first. Delaware and New Jersey saw visibility drop to near zero as 70-mile-per-hour gusts blasted across bridges and highways. According to state officials, non-essential travel was quickly discouraged, then restricted, as spin-outs and jackknife trucks started to block key interstates. Plows could clear a lane, but within minutes the wind was blowing snow right back into it. Farther north, New York City and surrounding counties in New Jersey moved from urgent advisories to outright travel bans on many major routes. According to local updates from NBC New York and ABC7, city leaders ordered non-essential vehicles off the roads as heavy snow bands locked over the metro area. Subway lines and buses shifted to reduced or modified service, and New Jersey Transit warned of widespread suspensions as tracks and overhead lines became buried and battered by the wind. Here is the important part. When a city of more than 8 million people slows to a crawl at the same time the snow intensifies, even basic trips to work, the pharmacy, or the grocery store become risky decisions. In the air, the storm's impact spread even farther. Thousands of flights into and out of the Northeast Corridor were canceled as airports from the mid-Atlantic to New England faced low visibility, strong crosswinds, and dangerous runway conditions. According to airline statements, carriers began preemptively scrubbing schedules to avoid leaving passengers stranded on planes or in terminals overnight. One international example stood out. Air India canceled all flights to New York and Newark on February 23rd because of the blizzard and hazardous airport conditions. And as planes stayed grounded and highways fell quiet, millions of residents watched the snow pile higher and higher outside their windows. wondering how long essential services could hold. Behind the radar images and emergency declarations, this blizzard is unfolding in living rooms, corner shops, and apartment hallways. Across the Northeast, many families spent the hours before the travel bans checking flashlights, charging phones, and filling bathtubs with water just in case the power went out. Parents tried to explain to their children why school was canceled again and why they could not go outside to play in the snow yet. In many neighborhoods, a final rush to the grocery store emptied shelves of bread, milk, and basic supplies as people accepted that they might be stuck at home for days. For people who live paycheck to paycheck, that choice to stock up was not simple. Every extra dollar at the register meant one less dollar for rent or gas next week. On the streets, essential workers did not have the option to stay home. Hospital staff, emergency medical teams, police officers, and firefighters made their way through the whiteout, relying on limited public transit and whatever plowed lanes remained open. In coastal towns, older residents watched the mix of snow and rising water with a different kind of fear, remembering past storms that flooded their basements and destroyed lifelong possessions. Utility crews prepared for a long night, knowing that heavy, wet snow sticking to branches and power lines could mean hours of work in freezing wind just to restore power for one small block. Here is the important part. While the headlines focus on travel bans and canceled flights, the human cost is measured in lost shifts, missed medical appointments, anxious nights without heat, and the quiet worry of people who have been through storms like this before and know how bad it can get. As the blizzard of 2026 tightens its grip on the Northeast, the impact on daily life is spreading far beyond the first wave of road closures and flight cancellations. According to local officials, large stretches of the Mid-Atlantic and New England are now dealing with a mix of closed schools, shuttered businesses, and suspended public events. Downtown areas that are normally crowded on a February workday have fallen nearly silent, with only emergency vehicles and snowplows moving through the whiteout. For many small businesses, every day with the doors closed is another day of lost income in a winter that was already difficult. Workers paid by the hour face the same harsh math. A single missed shift during a blizzard can mean a missed bill at the end of the month. At the neighborhood level, the storm is testing critical infrastructure piece by piece. Heavy, wet snow sticking to tree limbs increases the risk that branches will snap onto power lines, cutting electricity to entire blocks or towns. Utility companies have staged extra crews, but travel bans and near-zero visibility make it hard to reach every outage quickly. If temperatures drop further behind the storm, homes without power can cool down to unsafe levels, especially for older people and families with infants. According to emergency managers, many communities have opened warming centers where conditions allow, but in some areas, simply getting to those centers is too dangerous while the blizzard is at its peak. Here is the important part. Even short power cuts in a storm like this can turn into serious emergencies for people who rely on home medical equipment, refrigerated medicine, or stable heat. Along the coast, the danger has another dimension. The same winds that drive snow inland are also pushing water toward the shoreline, piling waves against seawalls in low-lying neighborhoods in New Jersey, New York, and parts of New England. High tides combined with storm surge can flood streets, damage vehicles, and send icy water into basements that have only just recovered from previous storms. Beachfronts and dunes, which act as natural protection, can be eroded in a single night. Emergency services must split their focus between inland snow rescues and potential coastal flooding, stretching resources at the very moment demand is spiking. For many communities, the full picture of damage to homes, roads, and the local environment will only emerge after the wind eases and the snow finally stops falling. As the blizzard of 2026 unfolds, the region's ability to respond is being tested hour by hour. Emergency managers across the Northeast have moved into full winter storm mode. Snowplow convoys are working in rotations around the clock on major interstates and critical local routes. focusing first on hospital access, fire stations, and main evacuation corridors. In many cities, mayors are urging residents to stay off the roads not only for their own safety, but also so plows and emergency vehicles can move without obstruction. When visibility briefly improves between snow bands, crews race to push drifts back from intersections and highway ramps before the next blast of wind buries them again. Behind the scenes, state and local governments are coordinating with their partners to keep essential services running. In severe blizzards like this, that response can include extra support for rescues, transportation for medical staff, and efforts to clear access to critical infrastructure such as hospitals, water plants, and major substations. Many communities have opened emergency shelters or warming centers where conditions allow, offering heat, basic food, and a place to sleep for people who cannot safely stay in their homes. Volunteer organizations and neighborhood networks are checking on older residents and people with disabilities by phone where possible, since door-to-door visits are limited by the whiteout conditions. Utility companies are using outage maps and automated alerts to guide repair crews, knowing that even small pockets of customers without power can face serious risks. Here is the important part. A strong response now can mean the difference between a dangerous disruption and a full-scale humanitarian crisis. At the same time, officials are already looking beyond the immediate crisis. School districts are preparing for makeup days, small business groups are tracking potential financial support, and coastal towns are planning rapid damage assessments once the water recedes. Disaster planners say that what happens in the first 24 to 48 hours after the snow stops will determine how quickly the region can begin a true recovery. For now, the priorities remain clear. Keep people safe through the peak of the blizzard, stabilize power and transportation, and put systems in place so that the cleanup does not leave the most vulnerable communities behind. When the snow finally settles and the roads begin to reopen, the blizzard of 2026 will be remembered not only for how much snow it dropped, but for what it revealed about risk in one of the busiest regions of the United States. This storm hit a corridor where millions of people depend on dense transportation networks, just-in-time supply chains, and aging infrastructure. Every travel ban, every grounded flight, and every power outage showed how quickly a modern city can slow down when weather pushes several systems to their limits at the same time. For many local leaders, this will become a case study in how well their communities were prepared, how clearly they communicated, and how quickly they reacted when forecasts grew more serious. In the broader picture, scientists have stressed for years that a warming climate does not erase severe winter storms. Instead, it can load the atmosphere with more moisture and shift the patterns that steer powerful nor'easters toward the coast. Events like this blizzard raise hard questions about building codes, drainage systems, coastal defenses, and where new homes should be built. They also force communities to think about who is most exposed when storms hit. People who cannot afford to miss work, who lack reliable transportation, or who live in older housing are often the first to feel the impact and the last to recover. Here is the important part. Planning for the next storm means planning for them first, not last. At the household level, the lessons are more personal but just as important. Families who went into this blizzard with basic supplies, backup light and heat, needed medication, and a simple plan for checking on relatives were better positioned to ride out the worst conditions. Neighborhoods that already had phone trees or group chats in place were able to share information quickly when official channels were overloaded. Emergency managers say that no forecast can remove all risk, but small steps taken weeks or months in advance can sharply reduce the danger when a major storm finally arrives. And as the Northeast digs out from the blizzard of 2026, one question will linger over every cleared driveway and reopened highway. How differently do we want to face the next one? Right now, the blizzard of 2026 is rewriting the winter map of the Northeast. 7 states are under emergency declarations, with rare blizzard warnings over New York City and the surrounding region, and a transportation network pushed close to its breaking point. As the storm continues to move through, the images will be dramatic. Silent downtown streets, buried cars, airport departure boards filled with cancellations, and long rows of plows carving narrow paths through towering drifts. Here is the important part. Behind every one of those images is a family, a worker, and a neighborhood trying to get through one more dangerous night. In the days ahead, the headlines will shift from shutting down to digging out. The real test will be whether the recovery is fast and fair, and whether the lessons of this storm are used to prepare for the next one. If this report helped you understand what is happening and why it matters, consider sharing it, checking on someone who might need support, and taking a moment to review your own plan for the next major storm. As the Northeast slowly returns to normal after the blizzard of 2026, one question remains for all of us. What will we choose to change before the next warning appears on the map?